But first, I will tell you this about the NBA. They have done a spectacular job of this being the dead space of the calendar, and they're giving us topics. Giannis Antetokounmpo was interviewed by the New York Times, and this is a big story because in a few weeks, he's going to be eligible for a 3-year, $173 million contract extension. He was asked, will he sign it? And he said, quote, "The real question is going to be this year, numbers-wise, it doesn't make sense. But next summer, it would make more sense for both parties. Even then, I don't know. I would not be the best version of myself if I don't know that everybody's on the same page, everybody's going for a championship, everybody's going to sacrifice time away from their family like I do. And if I don't feel that, I'm not signing." That is a statement from Giannis Antetokounmpo. There's no question about it. Now, as far as what he's looking, how it looks on his current contract, and he sort of alluded to this that I'll get into in just a moment. So he's under contract for this coming season and the next season, but for the 2025-2026 year, he'll be 31 years old, by the way. He has a player option for a contract to pay him almost $52 million. He can opt out of that or opt into it, and then if he were to opt in, he'd be an unrestricted free agent in the summer of 2026, 3 years from now. So, first of all, from a money standpoint, and Giannis alluded to this, it doesn't make any sense for him whatsoever to sign the extension now. You say, well, 3 years, $173 million. Well, you know what Giannis is thinking? Wait, time out. I saw Anthony Davis get a contract that's going to pay him $62 million a year, and you want me to sign a contract that's worth $57 million a year. Now, AD is spectacular. At his peak, he's a fringe top 5 player in the NBA. The problem is he's all over the place. That's why I call him Coin Flip Davis. That's why I have him just outside of my top 10. Giannis is, of course, undeniably a top 3 player in all of basketball. So from a number standpoint, Giannis is right. Doesn't make any sense. He shouldn't sign the deal until he can get the most that he absolutely can. But if you remember, I certainly do because I covered it extensively on my show. During the bubble, remember that bubble thing? The games were coming on at noon. It was really weird, and there were no fans and stuff. It was a very weird time for sports or for the NBA. Point is, during the bubble, remember when Milwaukee was the number 1 seed? They were the odds-on favorite to win the Eastern Conference. I never bought into them all year. They went down to the Miami Heat in 5 games in the second round. Giannis actually got hurt in that series. Milwaukee lost to a Miami team that got to the NBA Finals that year. And I remember talking about that on my show and saying, like, this feels like it's the end for Giannis in Milwaukee. He's going to play this upcoming season, and then he's going to leave in free agency. As it turned out, he signed a long-term extension, the 5-year extension. Not before, however, and this is where I think it's interesting, not before a month prior to him signing the extension. What did they do? What did the Milwaukee Bucks do? Actually helped them win a championship in a big way. They traded for Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, who is probably the best two-way guard in the National Basketball Association. All-star level player, good scorer, tremendous defender, and has become the second best player in the Bucks to Giannis. He's supplanted Chris Middleton in that regard. Middleton has struggled to stay healthy. Isn't it funny the parallels between the Bucks in 2020 and in 2023? Losing 5 games to the Miami Heat, who make the finals that year. Giannis gets hurt in both series. Now, by the way, for the record, and I talked about this at length when the day after Milwaukee got beat by Miami this year, I said a bulk of the blame has to go on Giannis because he played bad in the fourth quarter in Game 4 and was horrible in the fourth quarter and overtime of Game 5. Certainly at the free throw line. So it's not to absolve blame from Giannis. Like he did not play well enough to win that series against the Miami Heat. 2020 or 2023. But I give a lot of credit to Giannis. Not just from a business standpoint. That makes all the sense in the world. But essentially saying, hey, I'm not satisfied with the one championship. We're in an Eastern Conference that, as I have stated religiously, I don't care what anybody says, is better than the Western Conference today. Milwaukee's a contender. Boston's a contender. Knicks are getting better. Heat are a contender with or without Damian Lillard. They get Dame. They might be the favorites in the East for all we know. All these teams out East that are absolutely contenders to potentially win the NBA championship. And Giannis is looking at like, okay, we're going backwards. We won the championship 2 years ago. Lost in the second round, but Chris Middleton went down. The series went 7. Giannis played amazing against Boston. Just Boston had more horses than Milwaukee did. But then this year, we have the best record in the NBA, just like we did in 2020. And just like we did in 2020, we lose the Miami Heat in 5 games, despite being the more talented basketball team. Now, they brought in, I think, Adrian Griffin, if I'm not mistaken, is the new head coach's name. Brought a new head coach to replace Coach Bud. We'll see how that works out when it's all said and done. But Giannis is looking at this from the perspective of, I've got options. Milwaukee's great. We've heard Giannis loves Milwaukee. Why do you think he was so emotional when the Bucks won the championship? It was 8th year in the league, and he was like Milwaukee's adopted son. He's this kid from Greece, and the city just embraces him, and he wanted to win a championship so bad for him. He said it wouldn't feel right to win a title for another franchise. Well, mission accomplished. He has, and he did. But what's beyond this? Is the ceiling for Milwaukee sort of like the ceiling with Kareem when they had Kareem about 50 years ago? When Kareem was like, I don't know if I can win multiple titles here. Got one with Oscar, but I don't know if I can win multiple. Maybe Giannis is thinking the same thing. The Knicks have cap space. I'm sorry. I'm not ruling out the Golden State Warriors might make something happen. Just throwing it out there. Listen, Klay Thompson takes up a lot of money, and I love Klay. Love Klay. But Klay Thompson takes up a lot of money. That salary cap and the luxury tax and etc. You can make that happen. A Steph Giannis duo. That'd be something. That'd be something. So I like that Giannis is putting pressure. Listen, is he implying that the Bucks should go after Dame? That they should trade a Chris Middleton and some future assets, some draft picks to Portland for Damian Lillard? Maybe. A Dame Giannis duo is absolutely no doubt the favorite to win the Eastern Conference. Matter of fact, it might take Miami completely out of the mix because they're hinging all of their hopes on getting Dame because they've lost a lot of their depth from this past season. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because the story, and again, he did the interview with the New York Times. Maybe it's just because the article came out yesterday, and so we haven't had a ton of time to react to it. But I feel like this is a sneaky big story coming into this NBA season that Giannis said straight up, I'm not signing an extension. And I don't think it's just for the money reasons. The fact that he could have just said, from a number standpoint, it doesn't make sense, and then moved on. He is sending a message publicly to the Milwaukee Bucks, the same way that Damian Lillard did with the Blazers, and they weren't able to get talent. And LeBron has done with the Cavs. They never got him a second true co-star in free agency, certainly, or through a trade. So I think that's Giannis is playing the LeBron and Dame card. Small market. It's hard to attract free agents. But I think he's saying Dame's on the market. Dame doesn't want to be in Portland. Remember, Dame did that interview just yesterday or the day before with Mark Spears, who's a tremendous journalist. And he was saying, I don't want to talk about Portland. So he's done. He's not putting on a Portland Trail Blazers uniform again, so he says. Why doesn't Milwaukee get into the Damian Lillard sweepstakes? It makes sense. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.